Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where every 2 weeks we come together to discuss an anime like we're a book club, and then we turn our discussion over to you, the comment section, our listening audience, to carry on whatever discussion we've started. Tell us why we're right, tell us why we're wrong, more importantly, and share your own opinions because it is just as valuable as ours. We are just three idiots who have microphones and barely working internet tonight. And that's where this episode's coming from. Just some context. We are discussing the second half of the Eminence and Shadow. So this would be episodes 11 through 20. We've already discussed the first half. You can go back to our last podcast episode and listen to that if you haven't already. There will be spoilers for both later on, but we're going to be doing some non-spoiler talk. But before we do, I need the help of my co-host. First up, we have the Austin Powers to my Jason Bourne. It's Jeremy. How you doing?
Hey. Doing pretty good. So I have another somewhat bland, I guess. Maybe bland isn't a fair word. Disappointing. Okay, I don't want to give away too much, but Athena, Pirate Princess. So there's another anime where I kind of thought maybe there'd be something really cool here, and it wound up just not living up to my hopeful, naive expectations.
Okay. So this is one that is not really that favorable to you, that you let people know your tastes.
Yeah, it's the thing that's in common between it and this anime.
All right. We also have the Crocodile Dundee to my any Chuck Norris character you can think of. It's Jason.
Love it. I am a huge fan of Konosuba, and I am looking forward to watching the newest movie that just came out. So
we're gonna have to do a mini-sode with that.
But
we're gonna have to do a mini-sode with that.
It's like a spin-off, I guess.
Yeah, it's a prequel spin-off of Megumi's time in the academy.
But
it's just about her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I still want to watch it, but maybe it's not mini-sode worthy.
Stole my last week pick, you guys. Just throwing that out there. Jason stole my. I picked Konosuba last week for this very same anime. Not that it matters.
To be fair, I had no recollection of what happened last week, let alone 2 weeks ago. So I do not apologize. But
I don't even know what's happened today. It's been a long day. If anyone has the YouTube on, yeah, my hair ended up this way by the end of the day, and that feels on purpose. All right, my name is Troy.
So it is darker.
No, it's just more frazzled and curly right now. There's no
just like his internet.
It's just there. Yeah, I might disappear. We're running an hour late because it took that long to reset my modem.
Mm-hmm. We really need to get you new computer equipment. So if anybody wants to, we love a coffee.
It's a brand new modem. So the computer is about to die. Yeah, that's
took
true.
An hour to reset your computer.
And also, like, hey, I'm rendering. No, I'm not. Restart over.
Yeah, the storage space on the computer has become a high wire act every time of like, okay, I'm gonna render this. Oh, it rendered. Oh, the last 20 minutes is just gone. At least I catch it now instead of releasing it and having someone else come back to us. I check now every time. All right, my name is Troy. My anime pick, I'm gonna go with Space Dandy. That came up. It'll come up again tonight because it's a silly comedy that I very much enjoy with a character who I don't like. Hint, hint. But or is not a good person and like, oh, I want to be that person, and still something I find very enjoyable. Which leads us into what our thoughts are on The Eminence and Shadow Part 2. This is Jason's pick, so why don't you go first? Non-spoiler.
I had fun. I am not sad that I picked this, but I have some very difficult things I need to work out as far as our discussion tonight. Um, there's quite a few things that bugged me, but I felt the story didn't quite go where I was hoping it would go, because there came a point where I cared more about the background characters than I did the main characters. So, um, yeah, I think this is just going to end up being fine, but we'll see. I think my discussion may sway me one way or the other.
All right, Jeremy, what'd you think?
It has moments. I would even go so far as to say it has moments of brilliance where it has really good writing. It has a really good character portrayal. Like, I really like what they do with some of the characters in some of the scenes, but it also has some serious cheese. Like, it is ridiculous. Some of the names really kind of take me out of the story and make me, like, part of me wonders if there's something more interesting going on, but then part of me wonders, hey, I thought that last time and was wrong. So do I dare hope, or do I just admit that, the author is just doing it because it's funny? He likes it, whoever wrote it. So I don't know. I'm a bit disappointed. I had higher hopes for it than what it lived up to.
For me, this is pickles and peanut butter. I like both aspects. I like pickles. I like peanut butter. I don't want either. They are, and we kind of came to this from the last episode. They are taking a very serious story and a very silly concept and mixing them together, and I just don't feel it's mixing well. And I don't think it's impossible to mix those two things together to make it done. I just feel like this story, it's so deadly serious one moment, and then I'm guessing we see something that's a joke, or there's a very silly character name, but then like a character's parental figure is dying, and I just feel like it's so random back and forth all over the map that I don't even know where to laugh properly. A lot of it feels generic, which is on purpose, because we talked about how it's satire and comedy, but it doesn't feel like it's always satiring that, so it just feels generic a lot of the times. You're like, no, okay, wait, no, I think that was a joke about this trope, maybe, or maybe they're just doing the trope, and that's where I am the whole time. I feel like I am missing subtext. There's a character moment near the end where I'm like, what did that mean? I think it meant this, and I'm like, I have no reason to think that. I think I want it to mean that. There's nothing in the story that told me it meant that. I will go into more detail in the spoiler section, but that kept happening to me. I feel most, and when I stop trying to really chew on something off the bone, it just becomes very generic to me, and then so I'm not happy it's not showing me something brand new. However, I do agree with Jeremy. Like, there's really great moments, and I do think I now see why this works for other people. People who I think are getting the subtext, or the joke is working for them. They're enjoying the pickle and peanut butter, and they'll swear by it. I think I can see why people would like this. It's just still not landing for me. Okay, what do we do after we talk about it?
Oh, intro. OP.
Opening and scene. What do you guys? Oh, it's the same one. Oh
Yeah.
man. Only thing I'll add is that song I found catchier now.
Mm-hmm.
Highest. Yeah, I was actually grooving with the OP this time.
I still
I
like
skipped it.
the beginning of the OP better than the end, but I also skipped it.
I definitely skipped the closing each time now.
Yeah.
I never ever skip closing, but I'm like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done.
Yep. Nope. Too old for this.
All right. Our next anime, we're not done. We're going to keep talking. But before we go to spoilers, our next anime, this is Jeremy's pick. It's
Urusei Yatsura.
Urusei Yatsura, the first 11 episodes. This is a remake, or is it a sequel?
I think it's a remake. Like,
Remake of the old 80s
yeah.
We'll find out.
anime.
Yeah, it's the 2022 thing that just got released. And yeah, I think it's a remake. I've never seen the original, but apparently it inspired a lot of anime.
Right.
So I thought it would be kind of cool to see, what they do with it.
Especially at our age and when we like got into anime.
How dare you?
Back when anime was in its infancy. Not really. We came in late to that too.
But all I was saying is that you've seen the image of Lem?
Yeah. Like the cat girl in the leopard bikini, right? Or is it
Right.
tiger?
No, she has horns. It's not cat ears, it's horns.
Is it horns?
I think it's horns.
I think
She
you're
has
probably
horns, and then she has the yellow bikini, and she's an alien, and her boyfriend's a human, and that's all I've ever known about them. But I know that she was a big deal in anime, and they came out with a new series at the end of 2022. It's 23 episodes long. We're going to do the first half, and then we'll do the second half after that. You
Mhm.
know the drill. Okay. Spoiler warning for the second half and the first half of the Eminence in Shadow. So we are going to be starting off again, though, with episode 11. And we find our main character, Sid. He's in this town for a festival that's going to happen. It's technically summer break for his school because his school got attacked by terrorists that he murdered all.
That's how you start a summer break.
And so, yeah, he goes to this hot spring, and we need to talk about Sid, but I got to call out this line that, it's been a couple days since I watched the anime. We recorded the podcast. I sit down and I'm like, okay, fresh eyes, fresh everything. Let's give this another chance. And he's like, there are things I like. There are things I dislike. But I don't care about them. I qualify these as things I don't care about that I like, and things that I don't care about, or things that I don't care about that I dislike. And I'm like, no, I hate you. I hate you so much.
Yeah.
It's just so much drivel coming out of his mouth nonstop. And I get that's the joke, but oh my gosh, the groan that came out of me. Guys, thoughts on Sid, and especially in this half.
I enjoy the power fantasy, and I enjoy the I'm secretly stronger than everyone else, and I'm going to slowly reveal it to people. Dang, he's angsty. Just the amount of edgelord that this guy is just nauseating. And there comes a point where, as Jeremy was mentioning, there's some really great background writing happening. Like, there is some world building that I am super interested in. And unfortunately, it's like there's so much headcanon that I can't prove from on screen that I'm really like digging. And unfortunately, we get these full episodes of Sid and what he's doing, and I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I like watching his fights. They're fun to watch. They're kind of neat. But like, man, they went too hard on the silliness with him that I got to a point where I just didn't want to see him on screen anymore. I just wanted to see what was happening with the bad guys and his organization.
Yeah, I think for me, he just became that balancing point of, yeah, sure, this character has dislikable qualities. There's things that I really don't enjoy about him. But then there's also interesting intrigue and where's he going to go and what's he going to do, right? There's this balancing act of that. And for the first half, the first, 10 episodes, I thought it was fairly balanced. And in this one, I'm leaning way harder on the I don't like him. And I know that a big part of that is knowing now that he can never see beyond himself to realize that, what's going on has bigger implications for other people and that their stories matter too. He's such an egomaniacal monster that he is only focused on, does this entertain me? Does this complete my bucket list? And so just seeing the way he does this, like there's one moment where he's like, um, I'm going to fantasize about how I'm going to go through this tournament. I could show up in this way. I could show up in that way. Right. So it's no longer even Shadow, right? This one persona. It's literally, I could take on any persona I want because I'm really, I want to experience the stories that I've seen and read and been told about in anime or in novels or anything else that he may have absorbed. I want to be that character. And that is all, like, he's the Phantom of the Opera. Like he, he does these things that, like, part of me laughs at it, but then part of me is like, okay, but you are missing the bigger picture of what's happening and the impact that you're having on these people, because your power level is so high that you can't tell them apart from bandits or whatever, right? You must still understand when a princess is fighting for her kingdom or anybody else and they're dying and you don't care. Those people are actually trying to defend and you are the one attacking. Then you're like, oh, maybe I'll just be evil this time. I'm like, oh, I hate you. You're horrible. So for me, this character just became more and more unlikable. And it doesn't help that, like, in the very first episode, on episode 11, like, I laughed because it starts with him being in the naked scene, right? Because that was how episode 1 started, with his classmate. The girl was in the naked scene. We were like, what was going on here, right? And so this time it starts with him that way. But then he goes into this, like, monologue about his dick. Like, what the heck, man? So
Stop looking at Excalibur.
yes, he keeps talking about
I have not
Excalibur.
been sheathed it yet. You never know how big the blade can get. Oh God!
Right? I was like, this is so dumb.
And
I
then
mean,
snaps
it
his
wasn't.
butt with a towel.
Yes, yeah. So I'm really not fond of Sid, and I like you were saying, Jason, there are so many other things that are interesting in this anime. I don't see any brilliant writing with him. I only see frustration for me.
And I think what's really also, like, really getting at me is, like, these girls that were experimented on have real problems and real strife, and they're
Mhm.
fighting a real threat. And they've explained this to him, and he even
Mhm.
had a diatribe in here where he's taught about Diablo, and he just doesn't care, and he thinks it's all make-believe fantasy, and it's infuriating to watch.
Mhm. Yeah, I want to call him a narcissist. I mean, I'm no psychologist, so maybe there is a more appropriate term, but that's what he
No,
seems like to me.
he's a sociopath. He's not narcissistic.
Uh, I think the Eminence side of him is, and I think that he hides everything and plays to pretend that
I
he's
can see
not.
that. But when
Yeah,
he's talking with the people who know who he is, he's not particularly narcissistic to them. Like, he's
that's
always
true.
willing to help.
Yeah,
But
he doesn't control them,
he's
manipulate
totally
them.
sociopathic. He does not
Yeah,
care about anybody else.
yeah.
Positive points I'll mention of Sid is at least he's not a
Always
woman
there.
ogler. No, but like Jason pointed out, he has no interest in the harem that's
Yeah,
building
that's
up
true.
around him. The scene with the mixed bath, he's not going crazy. He's like, he's more interested in flaunting what he's got than even trying to take a peek at her.
Yeah,
Right?
Because he goes
That
to
was
the mixed
pretty
bath
great.
with Alexia.
that's
And
true.
that's a little refreshing because a lot of anime characters are the minute at a time. I'm going to peek through, I'm going to sneak to the mixed bath. This is the guy who just walks into the mixed bath and is like, look, you're the one looking at me. I don't know what your problem is.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit refreshing out of. And then, like I was mentioning in the non-spoiler section, there's this scene at the end, and I'll break it more down when we get to the actual scene. But I was like, does that mean something? Does that mean there's a layer to him that we don't know about? And for a guy who narrates the show constantly to us, he sure shuts up when it matters.
Right?
And so that, again, that's where I'm frustrated. Am I missing subtext on Sid, or are they leaving it out? It's probably the first one. I'm sure people who are big fans of this are like, no, you got to understand what this means. I can hear you, and I do want to know. So feel free to let me know. But I'm not picking it up from the show. That's on me. I get it, but man, it makes him frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, the other person in the bath is Alexia, who still has a role in this show, even though she kind of had her arc already. She gets to keep playing a part. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this continuing character?
She gets a little sidelined. It's disappointing because she is not only a better character because of her arc, but she's got this like conviction to not only make her kingdom but the world a better place, even if she's kind of bitchy about it. And I really like her confidence in her character, even though she's not nearly as powerful as the people around her. And that she's basically willing to do what it takes. So I actually really liked her on this side.
Yeah, she definitely had some great moments. I especially liked when she was making the team with them, and they kept making jokes about like, well, we have the useful in this way, useful in that way, and then the absolutely worthless member, right? And obviously that was her. And then later, even when that kind of breaks up, she's the weakest member in that group. Like, she is getting left behind again and again, but she doesn't give up. I find that kind of impressive. That's a cool character.
I really hope, 'cause like you said, with her being outclassed by everyone she comes across, that they're actually building her up for the main protagonist role, or at least what Sid would consider the main protagonist role. I know Sid is our protagonist for our show, but he's waiting for a protagonist to show up in the story he's playing, and I'm hoping that we're building Alexia up into that, because that's I think very interesting, because she is a character who she's the master of the basics and is continuing to work on improving. She doesn't have all the unlimited power all these other characters seem to have, but she's like a dog after it. She's never giving up, and I find her character one of the most interesting still.
Yeah, you bring up a good point too, because that's exactly what Sid was. So there is possibility, like there's potential there. No other reason why they would tell us that that's the same exact thing as Sid.
Mm-hmm. All right. So they talk about in this bath why they're here. This festival it's the second of 3 fighting tournaments we get in this whole first season. But it's a different fighting tournament because you go in and you fight a ghost from the past. You go into the thing, and if you're strong enough, a ghost who matches like your power level will come out and battle you. If you're not strong enough, nothing will show up. And then it's like everyone's like, "Ooh, what's the most special spirit that will show up to battle?" And so that's what they're there for. But she's there actually to do an audit on the bishop. Now, the real bishop has just been murdered. And we saw that at the end of the episode. And Alpha was actually framed for it, or they thought she had done it, and she snuck off. So Shadow Garden is here because of this murder. Alexia is here to do this audit, which has now officially been canceled because there's a temporary bishop in place. But I do want to talk about Shadow Garden because they're here for that investigation. I didn't call out Alpha this time. I did call out Beta because I felt like she joins that other second group. So we'll talk about her specifically. But your guys' thoughts on the rest of Shadow Garden that we meet here and any standouts?
I love the intricacies of this organization because we've got like the economic side, we've got the powerhouse fighting side, we've got the stealth and intrigue side, and then we end up finding they've got like a training camp, and it's just, I really find this organization fascinating. And what's infuriating is that Sid either doesn't know about it or he just doesn't give a crap. And in either of those cases, it pisses me off. Anyways, enough about Sid. I I really liked the political movement of Gamma because she's the business one, right? Yeah. I liked her her political maneuvering within the story, which was interesting. And then also, I really liked that they have this goal. You know, obviously they're looking for the cult of Diablos, but it's very calculated in gathering information, manipulating people around them, and then getting to their goal. And so this whole plot of them with the church, I found very enjoyable. It was very good storytelling. But overall, I actually really like Shadow Garden.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely showed us a few more characters, and I mean, they had the cat girl who goes nuts.
What's
the
her name?
berserker.
Is that Delta?
I think it is Delta.
Right.
I want to check.
I
Yes,
found
it is
Epsilon a
Delta.
little silly, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah, Epsilon's silly, but I don't know. I think she's funny. Like, I've never seen an anime girl's boobs get cut off and then reattach, and then she's more concerned with who saw that than anything else.
To actually
The-
being attacked.
The
Yeah.
second time it happened worked better for me than the first time. The first time was a
Where
little
they
over the
kind of
top.
drooped off.
Right.
Yeah.
The second time where they just, or the second
Fell.
time the magic, they just fell off, and then she sucks them back up, and then turns to everyone. What'd you see?
Yeah.
No, what'd you see? No, what'd you
No,
see?
I didn't see anything.
Yeah. For stuff like that, I found her very entertaining. Beta's fine. She's just a mousy agent. I'm actually looking at a list of them to see if any of them really stand out to me. Yeah,
So what-
that's really about it.
One of the big things is Alexa being a descendant of the hero.
Mm-hmm.
And literally almost looking like her identical. And we find out
You mean
she's-
Alpha?
Alpha, yeah. No,
Yeah.
Alpha looks just like the hero, and her aunt is one of the most powerful sword
Mhm.
wielders in the kingdom and is looking for her, which also was weird. I have questions about that, but we'll get to
Mhm.
that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that that stuff is interesting. You're right. When they're talking, like, she's like, "Hey, look, I look just like the hero, and now the hero's by my side, and we're going into this
Mhm.
magical device." And I'm like, "What is that? I want to know." And then it's
Not magic at all.
yeah,
Well, I mean, it kind of still is, but it's also techie.
Okay, what really got to me, and one of the reasons I started hating Sid, is we've got this really cool buildup, and we've got this whole intrigue of the blood of the hero, and they get to this. A little bit of a spoiler for where we're going. They get to this sword, which is a key, and only blood relatives of the hero can pull it, and then it doesn't matter. It's like you built up this really cool like discussion. We're going to find out more about what's going on and what this cult of Diablo is doing. No, it just blow it up. Okay, thanks.
that's the
That was really great.
You didn't laugh? Ha 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 ha. Jason's constipated again.
again. When did the first time? Did I miss a episode?
No, it's the perfect angry face. That's what I always think of. Yes.
Okay.
It's my dad's.
Yes, it is. Now that you mention.
So these trials, this tournament begins, and we see Alexia gets sit down right next to Beta, who, in her public persona, is a famous writer, and she's attending this as an invite. These two characters hate each other, and this was my favorite thing about the series. I wrote to you guys, I need an Alexia Beta buddy cop series where they just hate each other and go around solving crimes. That would be a great anime. I think Beta's jealous that Alexia used to date Sid,
Mhm.
so that really freaks her out. And then Alexia just hates everyone, especially anyone
No,
who's
I
bigger
think-
poop than her.
Yeah, she specifically hates her for her endowment, and also that she's so famous for being what she considers not not powerful, but like smart, but like she doesn't think her smart is worth much. So she's kind of jealous of that.
Yeah, there's some great comedy there. Stepping on feet, and like, oh, you're on my feet. Oh, am I? Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. The trials begin. Sid is watching, and he's like, "Oh, I need to sneak in. I really want to do this." And then they call the name Sid Kakano. He's like, "Huh, that's a great background character name." Oh wait, no, that's me. So he's like, "Oh, how do I handle this?" And he decides he'll enter a shadow, so no one will remember that Sid was supposed to go and fight. So
I thought this
Shadow,
was a horrible idea because Shadow shows up when Sid is called. Like, some people
Right.
will put that together.
I've been watching a lot of Superman. If you can get away with just putting glasses on,
That's fair. That's fair.
What bugs me is how many girls love Sid, but then find Shadow compelling and aren't putting those two things together. But again,
yeah.
Well, if Superman can do it.
yeah. Well, yeah. So he goes there and he gets the Witch of Calamity. I think
Aurora.
Aurora, the Witch of Calamity, and he's super excited. And he goes on this long discussion about how a fight is actually just a conversation between two people, and they have this brilliant conversation. But she's actually still pretty weak, noting that she's not at her full strength of what she would have been in the past because she's a spirit. She can't be that strong. So he defeats her, and the I'm gonna call him the Baron. He is the substitute Baron, but the Baron guy. He's furious about this. He's like, "Oh no, I hate that guy."
You mean Bishop?
Yeah, it is a bishop. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
standing in for the Archbishop. That
Yes.
was murder.
Yes. Sid leaves, but then magic doors appear.
Yeah.
One is for him, and he's like, no, and he leaves, but it follows him around multiple places. He's like, fine, I'll go in. And then there's also one in the arena, and the bishop explains that there are multiple types of doors. This could be a door to something else. But then Shadow Garden arrives. Again, Sid's off doing his own whatever, but like Shadow Garden has like this real plot. They wanted this to happen. They want to go inside. They capture the bishop. Epsilon defeats a assassin, takes Beta hostage, even though they're clearly just trying to make sure she's able to be brought along. Rose and Alexia follow them inside. Oh, Rose is here too. Yeah, Rose, who kind of gets a big character arc. She was just the best fighter blonde girl who was in the series, but now she actually matters. So, thoughts on Rose as she follows them into the void?
Liked her character arc. I like her involvement in the story. She's got real political ramifications for not only the life that she chose, but also what's going on with her father, which we'll learn later on. Also, she had some sort of curse infection, or was
she was
that
possessed? Just like the other girls.
Okay, so she was going to turn into a blob too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so which meaning she has the similar blood to the elves, which is a very interesting factoid. Like, oh, how did that happen? So it's like, I really liked her participation in this side. I found it very interesting.
But we do know how that happened now.
Yeah. It's just part of your bloodline. Some people are possessed. It can be accentuated by the cult stuff, but yeah.
Because the demon cells were put into their ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
By science.
Yeah. Because this is an apocalypse, not a fantasy.
Yeah.
Post-apocalypse.
I feel like we just... Well, yeah.
Spoilers.
Oh, yeah, that was the big spoiler.
Oops.
There was another anime we watched that was similar to that that I've edited out for spoiler reasons, but if you listen to us talk about it, you know about it.
Troy, edit this.
Troy, edit that. Yeah, so they go into what is going to be described as a memory prison by some, and
I don't understand why, because it's also a physical place.
because of the cameras that can take pictures inside of it.
Yeah.
But they pulled out the little cameras. I'm like, I thought this was all like an illusion in your mind place.
Plus, they have like they even call them something like little Polaroid cameras. Like, what in the world?
And they're not like 1920 cameras. They're not even.
No.
They're
Oh,
they're
they're
the wind up.
1990s.
They're
Yeah,
the
they're like-
wind up buying
yeah.
from a vending machine when you're at the zoo type of camera.
Yep.
Disposable cameras.
Yep.
Yeah. Definitely disposables.
Sid comes across the woman that he had fought, Aurora, and she is bound in a straitjacket, and she's like, "Hey, I can help you get out because I've always wanted to escape this place." So he frees her, and she's like, "Actually, I don't really have any memories, but I'm sure we can get out together." So they go wandering through memories. Both sides are seeing a futuristic scientific lab from the past. And we find out demon cells were being put into children, so they create super soldiers to fight the demon. And that's what led to the possessed eventually being created, or their ancestors being possessed. Alpha looks just like the hero, who again was also just another girl who was experimented on, that was sent to cut off the demon or kill the demon, but took just its arm, which they then used for more experiments.
And what's interesting
That's how
about
they
her
made
is
the
that
pill.
she doesn't seem to be succumbing to the possession. Like, it's not turning her into a blob.
Who?
So
Who's not turning into a blob?
Olivia,
Hero.
the hero.
Olivier.
Oh, Olivia. Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Well, he mentioned she's the only successful test.
Mhm. So there's something really special about her.
Right. Or they just got the science right. And also, so the arm that they got, that they were doing for the experiments on, they end up making, and that's where the little pills from the first half came from to give the guys.
Yep. Also, the
Oh.
bishop is one of the scientists, and they created an immortality pill from the demon blood, but they can only make 12 a year, and you have to take it every year. So that's what the High Council,
Knights of the Round.
the Knights of the Round of the Cult
Yeah.
of Diablo that everybody wants to join, is you basically get to be an immortal. And I love the Alexia pointing out, well, we clearly know what the weakness is. It makes you bald, and points at that he's bald. He's like, no, I'm bald from stress. Leave me alone.
But yeah, they can only make 12 a year. And so if you're on this council, as long as you're on the council, you get one of these pills a year that will make you immortal.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's like a gusher. It looks like a gusher.
So the bishop then starts attacking them. He's like, actually, I have powers and I'm super strong. And he starts fighting Delta. And then the group just suddenly all gets separated by the Mind Palace. And he says, well, this is our territory. This is a thing created by the Cult of Diablo. So I can use it as I want. And I'm like, well, then you should have sent away the people who are super strong and not stayed around them.
Kept the faceless ones.
Well, he also said, like, your magic's being sucked in by the center, and then I can take advantage of it, so I'm more powerful. So,
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that it's mentioned to say you can't use your magic. When you start to use it, it'll be dispelled. And then he starts closing his one eye from that moment
right.
on. Delta battles this bishop guy, and he creates like 100 clones, and her clothes are starting to disappear again because magic dispelling, and they all wear
the slime outfits.
magic slime suits that we still don't know where those came from or why they're so strong.
He even
Okay.
says, "Oh, was that slime magic? How crude."
Right. It's small tangent. There's one point where Sid makes fun of someone for using a magic relic, and I'm like, you use freaking super slime to get to do whatever you want.
Yep.
I feel like that's pot calling the kettle black, but whatever. Oh yeah, Sid and Aurora, they come across a childhood version of her, and she has to slap her, and that makes them go to the next memory. Then they're in a memory full of dead soldiers who attack them, like he's like, it's like we're a virus, and she's like, I don't know what that means. He's like, I actually don't know what that means either.
Yep.
It's funny that that's a line you hear like what in every movie where something like this happens. It's like we're a virus. Yeah. They find her again. He kills all those soldiers and then kills the little girl so that they go to the next memory. And that's where they go to the door where the demon's arm is sealed away, and they have to pull out the magic sword. Only the chosen one can do it. And he's like, I can do it, and he can't do it. And he's like, oh, I figured out that I'm not able to do it. And she's like, oh, you figured that out from reading the magical rune
Sign.
so fast. And he shows that he like literally cracked the handle he was pulling so hard. He's like,
Yeah.
yes, I read it so fast.
In the sub, he didn't know when he was trying to pull it out. He thought he'd be able to.
Right.
In the dub.
In the dub, he said he probably can't, but it did take effort. It did show that he has like cracked the handle because he was pulling so hard. And then because of his effort not being able to, says, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to," and she doesn't realize he's been trying, and points out, "Oh my God, you must have read all these inscriptions so fast." And he's like,
"Gotcha.
Yes, I did."
Yeah, that's basically the same thing that happened in the sub. Yeah, I didn't get the impression that he was. I got the impression that he said it before he even tried.
Right. I do remember him saying, "I probably won't be able to," before he pulled. Epsilon's group, they find a bunch of books that they start taking pictures of with their disposable cameras that they have invented.
Yep.
And they also find a zombie, but it turns into a ghost, and they said it's reacting to the fact that they're former possessed.
Epsilon's
Epsilon.
Her boobs fall off.
Her boobs fall off for the second
Don't say
time in 2
anything.
episodes.
Nobody's supposed to know.
Oh yeah, so the bishop, he's getting his butt kicked. Delta does his super powerful attack and crushes a bunch of his clones. And then he's like, okay, well now he generates a clone of the hero Olivier. He's like, she's gonna defeat you. And Alpha's like, actually, we got what we came for. We don't care. We're leaving. Bye. And they just leave. But the alarm's going off because someone's in the center chamber, which is Sid and Aurora. So he runs over there with the Olivier clone, has them attack Sid. And Aurora's like, oh, don't die for me and don't get hurt. And he's getting stabbed by Olivier. And then he's like, actually, this is exactly what I wanted. And he has stored up magic in his eye, and he's able to defeat her and 100 clones of her, which show up. And then he goes supernova, blows open the door. We get a shot of him floating in the darkness with the demon's arm and him looking like he's going to attack it. And then he wakes up in Aurora's lap, but she disappears and says, when you find the real me, I hope you remember me. So she was the memories coming out of the arm, because they do mention later she's Diablo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. I did like the symbolism then that she was actually in like a restraining vest, right, at the beginning, and he freed her from it, just like the arm. Yeah, I liked that. Once I realized it later, like, oh, okay, that explains why she was tied up, and that explains why she doesn't have all her memories, because how much memory does your arm have?
Okay.
But that also means that he completely deleted the arm.
Right.
Yes.
Which means they won't be able to make the anti-aging pill anymore.
Yeah. And
the
nobody,
entire facility.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody's been able to really damage the arm other than Olivier. And even that was, they had to just tie it up and put it in stasis basically back here, because it kept growing like spinal columns out of the arm, it looked like in the flashback. So once again, we have a glimpse at Sid's unfathomable power.
Alexia, being upset that she's basically useless, is like, okay, there's Shadow Guard and there's Cult of Diablo. I need my own team. And she enlists Rose and Beta to join. Again, she doesn't know Beta is Beta. But Beta, they both agree. And so they form their own little group to help investigate all these going-ons. And then we see a guy trying to get the Gamma's store to move to his city. And then she gets a report. She's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to buy all the properties. He's like, all the properties? She's like, yeah, I'm going to have all the properties. And then we find out that there's petroleum there. So she's an oil tycoon now.
Right?
They're going to make cars.
What do they need oil for? They're already creating products that use petroleum and they have no oil.
It does take them a day's walk to get to their base from the train station.
Oh my God. Do you remember what he said about like, oh, why do I have to ride on this train? I could just run to the sacred lands and I'd be there already. I guess I'll just like, no, these guys don't even need modern transportation.
That's what always gets me in Worlds of Magic. It's like, why would you need the microwave or a vehicle or any of the common, conveniences we have when you can just do it with magic?
Yeah. I think it's actually kind of uninspired, unimaginative if you use modern things in a magical world. Because if you really want to think about how magic would branch off to solve those problems, because each of those things, they're just a solution to a problem, right? Or maybe it's a manufactured problem, but it's still a problem. So having magic as a foundational solution to many problems means you're going to have people solving it in a completely different way. The solution would be unrecognizable. And I think it would be so much more interesting to see those solutions than to see like makeup. Yes, makeup inside of a tube or a train or, just like the things that were tennis shoes with laces. Like, come on.
So, spoilers for ancient anime at this point, but the original Fullmetal Alchemist, because they didn't have the manga ending, came up with this plotline that they were a parallel Earth to our Earth, and they were around the same time frame as right before World War II, but were way technologically behind because they had alchemy. That's what they studied in science and used for their problem solving. And so, like, when Ed now go to our Earth, suddenly they're able to start learning rocket science, and they're like, oh, this is what the science here is able to do. And that was always one of my favorite things ever, was like, that's cool. Yeah, exactly what you're talking about. We have a different way of solving solutions in our world, so our technological chart is way different. We have a completely different thing we studied. That was one of my favorite things about the original Fullmetal Alchemist. Brotherhood's still better, but that was such a cool just concept.
I didn't know they came to our dimension or our Earth. That's cool.
The movie that's like an epilogue to the original series is all about. It takes place mostly in Germany right before World War II. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Isn't the first one like way darker than this Brotherhood?
No, it takes less time in some of the darker moments because regular Fullmetal Alchemist didn't have its foot on the gas. Brotherhood's like, hey, we already did the story of the girl and the dog, so we're gonna do it like in one episode instead of 2 or 3 episodes.
I remember watching both. Okay.
This is the first mention of a character whose name is.
Oh boy, our favorite character.
Mature content warning. Sorry, but this is, and we're gonna call him Perv from now on. But his name is
literally his name.
Perv Asshat. Yeah. He's a major character. That's not a background joke. I mean, I guess it.
So all of us have grinned. So I mean, it does work on a subliminal level but it's so cheap, right? Like that is such a cheap way to get a reaction.
See, this is the thing, right? We just got done talking about abused girls who have turned into near superheroes to do this investigation into this terrible organization. Oh, by the way, we've got this guy over here named Perv Asshat.
Yeah.
Pickles what is this? And peanut butter. You are absolutely right.
Yeah.
The only thing is that there's a theory that we found about after our first episode that Sid is generating this world. Right? That is a popular theory. These names actually are the thing that has me most sold on that theory.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, no way
I can see that.
writer was that lazy. Because it feels lazy to me. But if you say Sid is being lazy and has gotten tired of coming up with character names out of his subconscious and is now just describing people as the background.
I'm gonna try not to lose.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to lose. He's a. We'll get to
Gilded Goldie.
Gilded Goldie, and then Mundane Man, a guy who's he's like like a background, not really important. Well, here's a guy whose literal name is Mundane Man, and you tell me that's not important or coming out of Sid's subconscious. Him saying, "I need a mundane man." Oh, here is Mundane Man actually in existence. Again, that's his name.
It would have been much more clever if he said, "My first name is like Mund," and then his last name was Daneman, right?
Yeah, because it would be there, but not even as clear as I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try not to lose.
But no, his first name is Mundane. Come on.
Yeah.
And the thing that's bizarre about it is no one is reacting to the name. No one's like, Mundane Man is your name.
The first lady, the lady in purple and pink, I forget what her name, or blue. She was a strong fighter. Anne Rose. She,
not to be confused with Rose.
Right. No, Anne Rose totally caught on to that. He was like, Mundane, come on, really?
Yeah.
Alexia is trying to get Iris to go back and do that audit on the bishop, but their father is like, no, we don't rock the boat. We don't cause waves. My eyes will never be shown. I'm very mysterious. But I have a dynamite mustache. And then we see that Rose is infected. That's one of the other shots in that scene. Yeah. Hey, guess what, guys? You're not gonna believe this. There's gonna be a fighting tournament.
Oh, I always wanted to see one in this anime. I
thought we just got done with one.
What'd be awesome is if Sid got to fight in it.
This is the third fighting tournament of this season. That's insane. That is insane. That has to be a joke, right? Like
that has to be.
That has to be satire. Like, oh, there's always a tournament going on for Goku to enter, or
yep. Let's have 3.
So Sid he's like, oh, I want to enter it. I'm gonna go. So he goes to meet with Gamma, and he's like, hey, I need a disguise so I can be this background again. This is where they create Mundane Man. Now, to clarify, Mundane Man was a real person who was alive and died, and they are just using his appearance. This is not a name they came up with being clever. I just want that to be clear. There was a real person in this world who was very mundane, whose name was Mundane Man, of the Man family.
I think there's definitely something to that theory. Like, there's no better explanation. I can't come up with a better explanation.
I had to check. Like, oh, if he named him Mundane Man, like my fake persona's Mundane Man, like, wink, wink, I get it. But it's not. This was a human being in this world. Okay. Basically, they're like, hey, we figured out how to use the slime for our suits to create masks. And we just put a contraption on your head where we ride a bicycle that sparks electricity, and then somehow you point at a picture and the face you want will appear.
So they saw Mission Impossible too.
Or the first one.
Yep. Dum-dum.
You just spoiled that they use masks.
That's just a Mission Impossible thing.
It's a little bit of an older movie.
Yeah.
Hey, we are in the spoiler section.
Yeah, that's right. We need to clarify what we're spoiling.
Okay, so he meets Anne Rose, who's like, you're way too weak. Don't enter the tournament. And he's like, I'm not too weak. I'm very strong. And then a thug guy gets mad at him and beats him up. He's like, this is so perfect. I'm being super the character who everyone thinks is weak, but is actually strong. It's weird. He just gave up on the background character for this arc. He's like, nah, I'm going to do a different thing this time.
But it's because it's his new persona. It's not Sid Kagano.
That's the thing that gets me is like, okay, so you don't just have like, I want to be the Eminence in Shadow. Instead, you're like, everyone and everything is my plaything. I am God, and I'm going to traipse around and do whatever I want, and like it just reminds me of the old Greek gods and such, where they would, really
He-
mistreat some of their citizens.
Near the end, he even says it explicitly, like, I am the Eminence, and then everything else is a persona. So Sid Kagano is not his real identity. That's an alter ego for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that alter ego needs to be a background character in his mind.
Look, I know he said that, but do you take anything he says as Shadow at face value?
That's a good point.
Well, no.
Because
That's a good point.
But I mean, that's how he acts throughout the anime, though.
you're not wrong. It's just at the very end of this anime, jumping ahead, he does this thing of like, this has gone perfectly. Got everything I wanted, and now the awakening shall begin. Yeah, that's what I'll say next time. That's definitely what I'm gonna say
Yeah.
the next time. I like that. And he leaves because you think like, oh, what does this mean? What? Oh no, he's just practicing
Yep.
talking BS again. So when
Yeah.
he says, "Oh, this is my true form," I don't care.
Right?
So it
Yeah,
doesn't
it's just, I
matter.
don't.
How many times have you said this in the mirror?
Yep.
He meets with Rose, who is talking about her fiance, Perv. I can't. It's breaking me even now.
So
And
bad.
then she's like, "Don't forget me," and he gives her a hamburger wrapper. Oh, just so you know, McDonald's is featured prominently. It's not McDonald's, it's Fantasy World McDonald's, but it
Right.
is a major character thing for multiple characters.
Yeah.
Does he give her the wrapper? Just give her a whole. I thought he gave her a whole burger, and then she
He-
kept the wrap.
She keeps,
Yeah, he gave her a whole
Yeah,
burger.
he gave her a
Yeah, yeah.
burger. And she's
And
like,
that's like a thing now. Is like, if you like somebody, you're gonna give them a burger.
a burger. And they're going to keep the wrapper as a memento.
A thing in the anime or a thing in real life? Like
No,
which
no,
one?
in the anime.
Okay.
That's what it
Oh.
seems like. There's multiple scenes where the nice thing to do is
Yeah.
give someone one of your burgers.
And multiple girls longingly looking at a oily, greasy burger wrapper that they've folded nicely in their pocket.
gift.
She does this whole, it's no matter what happens, please always believe in me. And he's like, yeah,
He's
I
like,
will.
yeah, sure, I guess.
Yeah. And then she leaves. And then he goes to the tournament. He wins his first round as mundane, even though he only has a power level of 33. So there's this character named Goldie who wears all gold, blonde hair, who starts spouting off about he's the master of power levels. He can look at anyone and instantly know their
He's
power level.
undefeated.
Yep.
We have a running thing on the show where Jeremy loves power levels. And I'm always like, they're garbage. They're only there to be broken. And so I was enjoying this character. I'm like, he's only a 33. Okay, anime. This one is satire. This one I get. Thank you. This one I actually figured out. Oh yeah, so he wins that, and then his friend, who's gotten into gambling on this tournament and it goes badly, wakes him up in the middle of the night because Rose has stabbed Perv ass hat
And has run off.
and has disappeared.
Yep.
Sid's reaction to this is, that is so rock and roll. And he really wants to find Rose to ask her, like, how cool was it to stab your fiance? This is a major political thriller moment for this series where the cult of Diablo is taking control of the king. Rose has figured it out, has uncovered the conspiracy, is now on the run. And his thought is, that is so rock and roll. I want to talk to her about that.
But
Again,
not enough
he's not
to
able to
like,
figure out what's going on.
but
Oh, no, he
not
doesn't
enough
do
to
anything.
leave. He's like, yeah, I don't really want to go anywhere until he sees his sister approach you. Then he's like, oh, yep, we're gonna go.
Uh-huh.
That doesn't happen until the next night when the bounty comes out on her. So he just knows about it now. And then
that's right, because he wakes him
goes-
up again
Yeah, he
to
wakes
get
him up
money
again.
to fuel his terrible gambling.
I did like the imagination of like what Potato is doing, where he's like giggling and saying, "No money for you," and he's got a bag of potatoes. That was good.
The trio of girls, Beta, Alexia, and Rose, discuss. Oh no, not Rose. Alexia and Beta are discussing what happened to Rose, and they're like, "Alexia, you go search." And then Beta's like, "Okay, actually, where is she? Oh, she's in the sewer. Okay, leave this amount of information for Alexia to find. We got to keep her, out of it, but still involved, manipulating her." Oh, and this is where he runs into a very light-haired elf girl named Beatrix, the queen of something.
War goddess.
War goddess, thank you.
Looks uncannily like Alpha.
Who says that he smells of elf and asks if he has seen an elf that looks like her. And she's clearly looking for Alpha as the aunt of Alpha. And he refuses to talk about it, which we need to discuss. But first, the character. Jeremy, your favorite character of the series?
Yeah.
Beatrix. What do you think?
So I absolutely love this character. She cracks me up because she's powerful enough that she really has nothing to fear from anybody. And so she just kind of says things that come to the top of her mind without any consideration. But she doesn't mean anything bad for it, right? Like she's aloof without malicious intent or without looking down at anybody. There's a scene where Perv walks by her and she just says, "You stink." And everything's always quiet too. It's like she's kind of mumbling it, like, "You stink." And he gets really mad and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you," right? And then there's really funny scenes with her. And the reason that they're funny is just because they're weird. Like she does things that are almost incomprehensible sometimes, like why this would be the action and reaction. And I that tickles my fancy. I love it when characters do that and they're consistent about it. So for instance, in this situation, she's walking down a hallway and she's got a big old bag of burgers. Like they're heaped up out of the bag. And Sid is walking the other direction and she stops and she's like, "Hey, hi, do you want a burger?" It just becomes a part of the conversation because he's like, "Wow, you got a lot of burgers." She's like, "Yeah, they gave me extra. Do you want one?" He's like, "Yeah, okay." So of course I'm like, okay, so I understand that she would give him the burger. Like I've seen people that they'll be like, "Oh, you noticed this thing?" It's like the Seinfeld pen, right? "Oh, you noticed my space pen? Here, take it." That kind of thing, right? So I get that, but then he's like, "Well, thank you for the burger," and he takes out a different colored burger from his bag and hands it back, and he's like, "Here's a burger for you." And she takes it like it was a legitimate transaction, like something valuable actually just occurred when both parties left with no real change. And I don't know, that just really struck me as funny. And there's other times too, like there's a scene where they ask somebody asks her like, who do you think is going to win in the tournament? Like who's doing really good in the tournament? And she just says, "Sid." And everybody's like looking at her funny and she just keeps repeating it. And she's like, "Sid, Sid, 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 Sid." And I just loved it every time that she was in the scene. The fight scene was really cool with her too. And she's also an enigma, We don't know what her objective was. So there's lots of things to like here.
What do you think, Jason?
I liked her a lot, but mainly for her fighting prowess. I think there's some more going on as far as her connection with Alpha that I was way more interested in, and I didn't get any of it. So I mirror some of what Jeremy was saying, but she wasn't that great for me. I think her fight at the end was fantastic, though. I loved her like enthusiasm of like when she sees Mundane Man's fight. She's like, "Oh, I want to fight him."
Yeah.
How do I get out there?
I kept feeling like they were going to do more with her, and then they'd pull back. Like, she watches Iris go through a fight, and Iris runs out to her, and then they just don't really say anything. She's just like, "Oh, hi. Oh, hi." And then they end it. And I'm like, okay, was that going somewhere? And I get now they just want to make sure the characters knew each other because they're going to be in a fight together soon. It just felt like like you said, she mentions her niece over and over again, but doesn't really get anywhere with it. But I did enjoy the burger transaction scene in the English dub. Like she walks up and she's like, "They gave me a lot of burgers." She's like, "Yeah, they gave you a lot of burgers." He goes, "I have too many burgers." "You do have too many burgers." And it just kind of like he's just parodying her, and it worked really well for the comedy. And then he gave her the blue burger, and I was like, "That's a fish witch, I think," but it wasn't. So whatever. Otherwise, I kept waiting for more with her, and it didn't come. So, but her fight was cool. Her fight was
Season
cool.
2.
No, I'll probably be alright.
I'll read a summary somewhere, and that'll be it. Not that that's a spoiler for our scores or anything.
And Rose watches Mundane Man fight Goldie. Mundane Man wins easily by sneezing. And then there's this whole sequence of
her neck.
Anne Rose trying to imitate the way he cracks his neck and then sneezes as if it was a combat move. And I kept waiting for her to like grab her neck because it sounded really painful.
Yeah, there was even a spot I think where she stayed with her neck cocked to the side for a little while, and I was like, "Uh-oh."
And then she walks up to Monday Man and goes, "I can do that too," and cracks her neck. And he's like, "What?" So
Right.
I don't think he meant to crack his neck. I think he actually just dodged, and she misinterpreted what that meant because he does not seem to get that. What's going on there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, I did like his. It's time to get serious moment, and
Weighted
then he takes
armor.
off his.
No.
So Dragon Ball Z.
I know, right?
It was
every
done.
time. But I mean, it is perfect as part of the satire, like part of the joke.
Yeah.
We also see Rose fighting off the royal guards she's running around the sewers. Okay, so this is where his friend's like, "Hey, let's go catch Rose to get the bounty," and he's like, "No," but he sees what's her name, his sister Claire coming, and so he definitely bounces. And then he hears someone playing the piano, and he's thinking about like, I was made to learn the piano, but then I realized the piano is actually really cool and perfect for like creating atmosphere. And I love Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. He's like,
"Oh, the angstiest of angst."
Yeah, and that's the song that's playing. And he goes and it's Epsilon. So Beta became a famous writer. Gamma became like an inventor, business mogul, and Epsilon became a famous piano player. And every time he's like, "That's so dirty the way they did that, copying stuff." Not realizing all that money is funneling to him and his organization that they're supporting.
Yep.
He learns from her that Rose is underground, so he takes a piano underground.
He steals a piano.
He borrows it, he said.
Indefinitely.
We get a flashback of Rose and why she ran away. Basically, her father's being mind controlled by Perv, and so she attacked Perv, and then they're using that against her. She hears the song and goes to it, and he offers her power, and he cleans her of her possession.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then she's suddenly attacked by the Cult of Diablo and is able to slay them all. Alexia and Beta, who were searching for her in the best scene. I gotta talk about my favorite scene, guys.
Going down the stairs.
Yeah, Alexia and Beta are going down into the sewers to look for Rose, and Alexia makes a joke about like, "I'll kill you," like she does because she did try to kill Sid at one point. She's got a morbid dark side. And then she turns to Beta. She's like, "I was just making a joke, but you're not afraid at all." And Beta, without no register on her face, just goes, "Ah, don't kill me."
Yeah.
Like the longest delayed reaction possible.
Yeah.
And then again, these two were the buddy cop duo I need. They find Rose, who now has her power, and she refuses to tell them what's going on. So Alexia attacks her in a, if you won't talk, I'll make you talk, and then she gets defeated easily. And
This
Rose,
scene made zero sense.
Why not?
Why would she attack her?
To make her submit so she'd talk.
have you ever seen a Marvel movie? If two heroes find each other, they have to attack each other before they can become best friends.
It's part of communication. I'll admit it was not great writing.
It's stupid, but it is a trope that exists. I wasn't surprised at all, but it is dumb.
Yeah.
Sid goes home, and his sisters stayed waiting for him this whole time. Now, remember, he ghosted her for summer vacation when he was supposed to go home. So then the scene is her straddling him, choking him to death. He's explaining that you pass out from the lack of blood, not the lack of oxygen.
Yeah, because she goes, let's see how long you can hold your breath.
Yeah. But she demands he come to the VIP section to watch her fight in the tournament, and gives him a ticket. So he does, and ends up sitting next to Iris, which is very distressing to him because that's a named character, and he's background. He's not supposed to be here. And this is also, he runs into Beatrix on his way to his fight, and where they exchange burgers. Perv shows up to steals his seat to sit next to Iris, and then Mundane Man, Sid, fights Anne Rose, beats her easily. And then this makes Perv freak out because he doesn't know who this guy is. He thinks he's from some underground, not Shadow Garden. That couldn't be them, but they're from a shadow organization that he doesn't know about.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like he knew because he said it was like the Nameless or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. And he
named a faction.
And he said the underground. I wrote the word underground.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But we don't know anything about what he's referring to. We haven't seen a single character that has been explicitly told to us they're from that place.
Season 2.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anne Rose admits defeat and then offers him a job being part of the guards of her country. He says no, he's seen too much darkness.
Gee, with a name like Shadow.
No, he's Mundane Man right now.
That's right.
That's true.
Iris wins her match, and this is the scene where like Beatrix is watching, she runs out, and then nothing happens.
Very important that happened.
Yep. Oh, and then Claire's mad because he wasn't in his seat. So he does watch her fights, but whenever it's his fight, he's gone right when she shows up, and he's not there, so she's assuming he's missing her fights. Rose is ready for her mission. We see Iris practicing, and then back the next day in the VIP section, her and Sid have coffee together. He teaches her about milk coffee. Beatrix also joins them at Iris's invitation. Perv shows up with Rose's father, and then Beatrix is like, he stinks. She smelled the potion they're using to control him, so he gets all upset. Mundane Man fights Iris, but we also get a flash of, which will end up being Rose in disguise, sneaking around the facility, trying to get to Perv. But Shadow Garden is taking out all the guards and all the officials and getting them out of her way so she can sneak around.
So as far as the power fantasy goes, I really liked this fight because it kind of showed just how powerful Iris is. She's definitely not the most powerful when it comes to all of these fighters, but she is very powerful in her own right. And this idea that you can sense danger that others can't was kind of neat. But she was sensing it so hard, she started hallucinating.
Yeah.
And actually, it surprised me because I totally subverted expectations. I was like, wait, did he just murder her?
Yeah.
Because we get this like from eyes camera of head separating from body and like falling to the ground.
Which was a cool shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, no way did they just do that? And then they flash to her like she basically hallucinated it, and it was for sure that happened. And it keeps happening over and over, where she'll lose a limb or she'll get her, leg eviscerated.
They
And
actually take they take a long time revealing the reality. They show the head tumbling, and then they cut to Rose.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting there. I remember I was with my pen, like, do I write Iris is dead? I was waiting for a fake out. Man, they waited a long time for the reveal.
Yeah. No, that was good. They got me good, but I liked this fight in the Power Fantasy box of that whole idea of being able to sense danger, because to the crowd it looks like she just keeps stumbling backwards or like dodging backwards when Mundane Man's not even moving, and she's trying to figure out, how do I even go about this attack? It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's also just clever in general too, because it's an opportunity to do those decapitating and limb cutting moves on a character that normally you would never ever see that on, right? These are the protected untouchables. So
right.
That's pretty clever too.
I didn't love it only because I agree with what Jeremy just said. It's not just that she's having like danger sense and hallucinating it. He's controlling what she's hallucinating. He is literally, and they point out, he hasn't drawn his sword, but she's seen him with the sword the whole time. He wanted her to see that. And that I was just like, that's just too much. I love hey, my danger sense is going off so hard, I'm actually seeing myself getting killed. But the fact he can control, he knows that and is controlling exactly what she sees just by small muscle twitches. That got an eye roll from me. That went over a top that I was too much for me.
Yeah, I would have preferred that he said he was using illusion magic. Tampering with her mind. That would have been cooler.
Okay, Rose. Oh no, Iris loses very badly. Without him ever actually, well, he does draw a sword at the end to pin her down, but like he takes her down with his hands. Using martial arts, it looked like.
Which I hate it. I'm sorry, but I hate it. I hate that his excuse for being so good is that he's studied modern martial arts and modern fighting techniques, when the people that are actually looking back at medieval fighting techniques, they actually do incredible fighting. If you watch some of the swordsmen that modern day that try to not reenact but actually go and fight in some of the brawls, like, it is ridiculous what they used to do back in the day, right? And so if you take that and apply it to this civilization where they're still living in this martial environment and they're still training you from childhood how to wield a sword, they've got techniques. You don't think they've discovered equal or better techniques with that much focus and how to use their magic? It's so infantile, this concept. That to me, that is another check in the box of, yeah, this is his power fantasy. This is his fantasy world. He's God here. So this is how he justifies his massive power. I absolutely hate every fight where he's like, oh yeah, it's just because I know modern martial arts. That's why I'm destroying these warriors.
It'd be, I had this thought. I think it'd be more interesting if he was actually getting bored. Because I remember in the first fight where he's like, oh, I'm going up against a military guy. I've never tried that before. Like, I want to see how my skills go against them with these martial arts. And now he's in a world where, because I learned martial arts, no one can touch me, even if they are so proficient, because I just have this one skill set. That would be boring. Like, I can block anybody. I can parry anything. I guess.
You're One Punch Man.
Yeah. I expected a little more One Punch Man out of him, where he's like, well, maybe I should start teaching the bad guys some martial arts, so I have someone of equal level to battle against.
See, I like that. That's more interesting. If you're gonna go with
centered, though,
he is, yeah.
Because like One Punch Man not only realizes the danger around to other people around him, but like, he wants to be a hero of note so that he can get money to shop at the supermarket.
A noble cause.
Sid wants to do it for notoriety. Like he wants this
In his bucket list.
phantasmal like idea in his head of what he read one day the Phantom of the Opera, and he's like, I want to be the Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he made such a big deal, like when he fought Aurora, of like, oh my god, this is such a fun fight. And then when he fought the 100 clones of the hero, and he's like, these guys are boring. They have no oomph to their battle. They're not good.
They're empty. They're not
and
communicating.
he was instantly not as happy. So it does seem like there's a part of him that doesn't enjoy these I'm OP to everything battles, but then that's gone after the Aurora stuff.
Fight.
Yeah. Okay, so Rose confronts Perv, and her father, through his control, is able to say that he forgives her, and she rushes forward and kills him on purpose to free him from their control so they can't continue to use him as a puppet.
Well, it looked like also she was trying to get...
Yeah, and she did get him a little bit. She got
Yeah.
Perv a little bit.
And we're also getting the impression that Perv is quite the formidable fighter compared to these other regular people. Just the way he talks with Iris and the insight he has regarding the battlefield and how he measures the different characters, especially Sid's mundane man, and how he also is self-deprecating about like, oh, I've dabbled a little. I'm a little bit of a swordsman. And then he comes out and is like, oh yeah, no, actually, I'm a pretty good swordsman. Yeah, so.
So, she goes to kill herself, and Mundane Man bursts in and talks her out of it, and is there to save her, and reveals himself as Shadow. And she's like, "Oh, it's the fanciful duelist." And everyone's like,
Bandit Slayer.
Yeah, the fanciful bandit slayer. There's a flashback of Sid back in his training period, saving her from bandits, where as he's running around slaughtering everyone around him, he says, anyone running is a bandit.
Uh-huh.
Anyone not running is a well-trained bandit. And then I was like, did he just murder a whole village?
Basically.
Well, it seemed like she was legitimately
She was kidnapped by
Mhm.
bandits.
Yeah.
Reminded me of the Tusken Raiders in episode 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I slaughtered them, the women and the children.
Yes. Yes, and he was laughing while he said it.
Right. Yes, he wasn't emotional about it. He was like, it was a good day. So we had known Rose had already seen him, and he's like, oh, I thought that girl had been from somewhere else. My bad.
Yeah.
However, Perv is like, someone defeat Shadow for me. And Beatrix is like, ooh, I want to fight him. So she does. And Rose is like, oh, I'm going to keep living my life. And so she leaves. She eventually runs into Alpha, who recruits her into Shadow Garden. But the end of this story really is Beatrix and Sid fighting. And then while he's winning, Iris joins them with a
Artifact weapon, right?
artifact weapon, yes. A giant sword that can shoot giant explosions out. They actually push him so hard in this fight that he switches to using the crowbars again, which I had really wanted to see. They teased it in the first episode when he went into the fantasy world that he had still used crowbars. So I actually was, for as much as I'm not invested in the anime, I was like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. He switched over to crowbars. And they have this big citywide battle so fast that most people aren't even realizing they're passing by as they're fighting, except for the giant
after explosions.
Right, the giant explosions. Really, Iris is doing the most damage to everything.
Yep.
They end up. Iris tries to sacrifice herself to stop him, but he just uses martial arts to defeat her and Beatrix. And then he's like, "Okay, you guys asked for it. You think, and like, you can't run away. You'll never get away." He's like, "You think I'm running?" And he goes atomic. And this is the scene I was alluding to in the beginning, because it cuts to a childlike version of him saying something. Mm-hmm. And then right before he explodes, he says, actually, this time it's just for show, and he disappears.
What was impressive to everyone else is that this, like the bubble he usually makes before he goes atomic, this thing covered the entire capital.
Right. He could have wiped out the whole city. And I actually, for a second, I was like, oh, they're going to do it. They're going to cross the line. And Jeremy's prediction of Shadow Garden being like, oh, he went too far, we're turning against him, is going to come true.
Yeah.
But he fades away at the last second. I've been thinking about that shot of him as a little kid. And so I worked up in my head this theory that before he wanted to be this edgelord, it had started with him wanting to be a hero edgelord. And he had mentioned, like, all kids go through that phase, but I just never grew out of it. And I kept thinking, like, maybe there is a part of him deep down that wants to be the heroic protagonist from when he was a little kid. And he's just covered that up with all these other fantasies since then. And so that's why he can't go through with this. And I sat there thinking about it, and I'm like, where am I getting this? Is this just what I want it to be so that I can like the character? Yeah, it is. Yep. And that bummed me out.
Yep.
Welcome to our world.
Do you guys have any thoughts on what the shot of him as a little kid saying something in silence that would mean?
No, what you described sounds like the only legitimate answer. I just don't see how it works with this character.
Right. Okay.
Same.
All right. So, yeah, he disappears, and then his friend's telling him about the shadow demon that attacked the city, and he's like, ooh, maybe he went a little too far on that one for staying in the shadows. I guess I'll need to stay more in the shadows. Then we see Alpha take Rose to Sid's hometown, and then now off into the woods where they have their Shadow Garden's base. And we see everyone at the base, and she's given to one of the Greek alphabet letters. I forget.
Was it Zeta? I don't know.
No,
I'm just looking at a bunch of them in the pictures and that.
I think the biggest thing that bugged me about
Lambda?
this was
Lamb? I think it was Lambda.
Lambda?
Lambda.
Yeah, it could have been Lambda.
There's this huge statue in the middle of this complex.
Of him.
Like, it's enormous. And it's like, oh, very, very inconspicuous.
Yeah. Have a neon sign around it. Shadow Garden HQ.
Yes.
Anyway, they enlist her into the army, and she's given over to Lambda for training. And she's like, okay, 665, 664, you're going to be training her. She's 666. I'm like, okay, that's a little spot on.
The nose.
And then they're like, you have to shred everything from the past. So they shred all her clothes and her hamburger wrapper, which makes her cry.
Yeah. Now, this bugged me at first. Like, I can see why it would have this emotional impact on her. But at the same time, not really, right? Like, the hamburger wrapper...
I thought this was satire. I thought this was a joke. Really? This freaking anime. I thought the joke was like, it's a burger wrapper that she cares about so much. I don't know.
No. The burger wrapper was basically symbolizing two things. It's her connection to Sid and her connection to Shadow, right? Because now Shadow is, and I don't mean the Shadow that she's, becoming a part of Shadow Garden for. I mean the Shadow that is the stylish bandit slayer, I think is what it was, the way it was put in.
Why would the burger wrapper connect to Shadow?
Because the stylish bandit. Oh shoot. Oh, maybe I'm conflating those. See, here's how my mind took it. My mind took it like this. So it connects her to Sid, and then my mind said Sid was the stylish bandit slayer, but she doesn't know that.
No, it's just no Shadow. It's just a Sid, who she thinks she has this deep relationship with. So I thought it was making fun of.
Doesn't make any sense.
You think you have this deep relationship, but you just have a cheeseburger wrapper, a greasy cheeseburger wrapper in your pocket, and then when you got shredded, you were emotional about it.
Okay,
but
see,
I don't
like
know.
That. I like that better because I was left really frustrated with like, why is she this upset? And the only justification I could find was that, yeah, it's her connection to Sid, which means it's also her connection to the stylish bandit slayer, which means that it's the foundation of her swordsmanship. So she's been living for this. So it's like truly the destruction of everything that has taken priority in her life and defined who she's become as a character. But no, it's not that, because she doesn't know Sid is the stylish bandit slayer. So I think you're right. I think it's entirely for the joke. And I don't like that.
But I don't know. And that's so Jason called out last time that yeah, I like silly things. I love Space Dandy, like I already mentioned. Space Dandy's so over the top, like it's clear this is all ridiculous, and even to the point of, hey, you don't have to worry about the story. We're resetting in the next episode anyway. Like, don't stress about that. Just enjoy the balls to the wall lunacy we're about to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is like government conspiracies, characters feeling emotion, maybe, or is this a silly joke? Perv ass hat, ha ha ha. Who knows?
Right.
And it's so a random dichotomy that it's not working for me.
Dichotomy.
All right, then we get a shot of Sid playing his piano again, saying very mysterious words, and then saying, "That's what I'll say next time." Yeah, that'll be my monologue. Thoughts on the ending?
Disappointed. We get this taste of Aurora. Nothing comes of it. We get this hint of Alpha's relative. Nothing comes of it. We get this political intrigue with Rose. Nothing's resolved. There's just all these loose threads that nothing the anime has put forward gets wrapped up, and it just cliffhangers like that where I end up checking out. I'm super interested in what's happening, but I don't care enough now because you've left me with too many unanswered.
I don't mind the unanswered so much. I thought that the fight was a good enough end cap that I was satisfied with the end of the conclusion. I mean, the end of the conclusion, the end of the season being just like leading up to this big conflict. I was okay with that. I wouldn't mind tuning in now. Obviously, I'm not going to, so I would mind it. But I mean, ordinarily, with this level of like loose ends left untied, I wouldn't mind coming back to see what happens in the next season to find out how those are tied. Because I think, if you're leaving them for development in season 2 or season 3, maybe you have something more complex to be told. And part of me kind of wonders if this anime is going to do that, because what I mentioned before when I said that there's moments where it has brilliance, it's always in stuff like this where it's teasing you with little things and with characters doing things that are believable. There's also scenes in the background. I forgot to bring this up in when it was happening, but like there was a scene where his friend that was in trouble for gambling was being hauled off by secret security. Secret service agents. They're literally hauling him off.
He ends up on a fishing boat to work off his debt.
So and like when it happens, it's in the background while he and Anna Rose are talking after their duel, and it doesn't even matter. Like you just see him being drugged, and his speech is like overtaking the regular subtitles on the bottom. And that's not the only time in the second half where you have something happening in the background that's really interesting, and it's funny, and it's a nice addition in the background. So I there are redeeming qualities, but as far as the ending goes, this ratio of loose ends I don't think would stop me from coming back and watching an anime if I thought that the rest of the story and the characters were well developed enough to merit it. I think for me that's where it falls short. Also, just the world building in general, I don't really like. So, and I don't mean the political intrigue. I mean the technological development really, really bugs the heck out of me. And the idea that, oh yeah, these guys, they're all just fools that they don't know how to fight. They're all just brute force, and that's so dumb. So yeah, so I don't know. I'm fine with the ending under normal circumstances, but it's like the straw that broke the camel's back for this particular anime.
You guys want to go to final reviews?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, where do you want to go?
There's a lot to like and there's a lot to dislike. I'm not I'm not understanding the high My Anime List score, so in comments, if you could enlighten me, I'd really appreciate it. I talked to my son who's seen this before, and he kind of chuckled at some of the stuff, but like, he tried to explain a little bit to me. I didn't get it. Yeah, not much more to say. It's just kind of right in the middle of the road for me. I'm just gonna give it a 3.
Okay, Jeremy.
Yeah, same thing. It kind of breaks even. It's a very low 3 for me. It's almost in the realm of a 2, but it still has enough interesting stuff going on and made me laugh enough times that I'm still going to give it a 3.
I'm gonna stick at a 2 for all the reasons I said last time and kind of what I've explained this time. But I'm gonna finish it off with a confession, because last time I mentioned like when I was 13 years old, I would have probably loved this, insinuating I'm past any edgelord phase I would have here coming up on my 40s. But here I am playing Final Fantasy 16, which has a nice mature story, but the main character is dressed in black leather with black gauntlets and has all these superpowers and is running a secret organization. And I'm like, I guess I still like some of the edgelord stuff from time to time.
Nice.
However, I need to point out to you guys, while I don't know how to say Bahamut correctly, or didn't, we've all been saying Ifrit wrong. It's Ifrit.
Ifrit.
Ifrit, apparently.
Interesting.
So, ha!
Bahamut.
Two for me on the anime, though. All right, our next anime is Urusei Yatsura. It's a remake of a classic anime that we'll be checking out. It is 23 episodes long, but we're going to watch the first 11 episodes for our next podcast. But if you have thoughts on the Eminence and Shadow, which is a very popular one, so I imagine there's some of you that do, please feel free to reach out to us. Let us know why you like it, why you don't like it, things we missed. You can reach out to us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can reach us on our website, theanimebakaclub.com. You can click the Contact Us button or leave a comment wherever you found the podcast, and that will come back to us one way or another. Thank you all for those who have commented. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to reading more of your comments. With that, we need to say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Bye now.